Hello, hello, everyone. It's Candace-Marie Mitcham here from Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Silverhawk Realty East, Idaho. And thank you for joining me for the Lending Lounge. Today, I have joining me Mike Morrison from Movement Mortgage. We're going to talk to you about what's going on with the average national mortgage interest rates, what's going on from the Fed perspective, and also talk about what's going on with the market in 2023. What did that look like? And going forward. So stay tuned. Mike, thank you as always for gifting us with some of your time on a wonderful Monday. Give me the scoop.
Absolutely.
What's new?
Yeah, so I mean, I know we've talked about this a bunch of times, but rates have just continued to perform. We couldn't ask for anything better. The last 6 weeks have truly been wonderful. A full month and a half. We're now not just averaging in the sixes, but we're solidly into the sixes. So getting close to the mid sixes as an average basis. So just wonderful news. And then what's really cool now is that we're expecting that to continue.
Right.
The Federal Reserve had their meeting just last week, so not even 7 days ago. And they basically projected 3 rate decreases for next year. So we've had our mortgage rates have been going down without even any Federal Reserve action, right? Without any Federal Reserve decreases. So now they're projecting 3 for 2024. And so this just has us excited for what's in store for the real estate market. I think it's going to bring a lot of demand back in. It's going to help sellers feel a little bit more comfortable selling their homes. And so we're really looking forward to the activity that we're anticipating, maybe as early as 2 weeks from now when that calendar turns over.
Yeah.
And so, that made me think that I wanted to ask you some questions about how the market's done.
Yes.
I know going into this year, a lot of people really were anticipating some type of a crash and a setback in home prices and things. So I'm curious what your stats are telling you, and then what we're projecting here for the next year from the NAR side of things.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, one thing to mention is, talking about the market heating up, and I can tell you my phone has been infinitely, more loud the last week or so, right? Which is great. So that's great. But, when we're saying we're anticipating rates to come down 3 more times in the next year, here's the one word of caution that I would say to our viewers is if you're in a position where you can buy now and you find that home, I wouldn't wait for that, because as the rates come down, then we are going to have more buyers come back into the market. That creates more competition for the properties that you wanted. So again, if you find the house, you're able to do it financially, don't wait. And one of the things that I know Movement Mortgage can help with is if those rates do come down, folks can always reach out to you and refi that and still capture that lower rate and still not have to fight for that house that they wanted.
Absolutely.
So that's important to mention.
Yeah, your interest rate is an easy thing to change, right? If rates come down, you can take advantage of that anytime. Your home price, however, what you paid will never go down if you paid more for the house.
Yeah, exactly. So, and yes, talking about the stats and what you're paying for a house, let's take a look at a couple of things. So, the National Association of Realtors, NAR, right? So they have just released, all the analysts are doing their stuff, right? So they just released something saying that home sales upturn for next year, new sales are anticipated to be up 19%.
Wow.
And existing home sales are anticipated to be up 13%. So for folks that think the market is cooling, crashing, that is not what the data is telling us. And also don't forget that real estate, as we always say, is hyper local.
Yes.
So I know here in Idaho, we're one of the states that is anticipated to have one of the largest job increases and influx of people coming in. So it's a really great place to own real estate and invest in real estate. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah. And it's just I've lived in 4 states myself, one of them being Idaho, and this is just a fantastic place to live. And with our modern jobs that we have now, a lot of times you can live here and you can have your employment be somewhere else.
Exactly.
So we have a lot of people that technically they work in Washington State or California or Texas or somewhere else, but they get to enjoy our lovely state.
Exactly. When my family and I can't talk today, when we relocated, coming from a major metropolitan area, I tell my clients all the time that are relocating here, I have never looked back. And they're like, but you came from a big city. And I'm like, I know. And my neighbors look me in the eye. It's great. Anyway, side note. All right. So let's take a look at some of the stats that we had going on. So I pulled a few of these up there on my computer here. So let's take a look at overall from 2022. And I just pulled stats for reference on single family homes, that closed in Bonneville County. And Bonneville County is where Idaho Falls is located. Okay. So when I took a look at that again for 2022, we had 1,516 closings. Okay. So, properties that actually closed, that was ranging from 75,000, and our highest, property value was 2,200,000. Okay. Now, again, this was 2022. Things were going under contract same day, next day, right? So our average days on market in that year was 32.
Wow.
So a typical closing period is about 30 days. Sometimes it could be shorter, sometimes it could be longer, but on average, you're typically going to see 30 days. So with that stat, what that's telling you is most homes were going into contract in less than 2 days.
Immediately.
And then closing. Yeah. So, I mean, you really had to hop and pop and get on something, right? So a couple of other things from that year as well is that the average sale price in our market here was 452,000. And let's see, it was going for, again, this was a very competitive time, right? So on the high side of things, we had homes that were actually selling for 147% of the list price. So you were coming in with those multiple offers, you were paying above and beyond to get in that home.
So if somebody lists their home for 200,000, you're paying almost 300.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let's fast forward to 2023. We're not quite finished yet, but we're close. So let's take a look at that. So kind of going over the similar numbers. So we have today 1,319 that have closed. So about 200 less, but we're not quite done yet. And we are looking at, on the low side of things, 100,000 to get you into a property, up to 2.5 million. Okay. And with that, we have seen what we would call not a cooling of the market, but a normalization of the market. And by that, I mean, instead of being under contract in 2 days, we're seeing the average close time of 47 days.
Okay.
So you have a little bit more time. You can actually go home and sleep on it and think about it. You know, do I really want this house? Does it have the half bath? Do I have to have that kind of thing before you have to pull the trigger, right? And so on that, we were looking at the high for the sold price, or excuse me, the average sold sales price was 446,000.
Okay.
So
a slight dip from 2022, but very marginal.
Exactly. And then the percentage is on the high side, selling at 114% of the list price versus 146. So again, we're getting back into that normal market, but we're not seeing a decrease in property values, right? And again, go back to what I just mentioned about the job market here. So you may not be getting 21% equity, you know, in your property, which we did see in 2022. You're going to see more of a normal range, right? So that's going to be 3% year over year, up to 6%, somewhere in that range, depending on what's going on in your market.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty amazed at those numbers. Actually, 2022 felt like a much busier year than this year did, but those numbers actually bear out that Idaho and in this case, Bonneville County performed very reasonably compared to the previous years, which were some of the best years we've had in real estate.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where we always say it's hyper local, right? So when you're watching the national news and you're seeing, oh, you know, pandemonium, what's happening? When you were seeing those dips, those pretty significant dips, those were happening in tech markets, right? So Silicon Valley, Seattle, you know, New York, those types of hubs is where you were seeing a greater impact. We are very lucky here in the beautiful state of Idaho. Now you're in Ada County. So what are you seeing on your side of the state?
Same kind of thing. We had a larger reduction in transactions, I would say, from that. I don't have those stats right in front of me, but in terms of average prices, we had a slight correction at the end of 2022. So over a year ago now. But I did just look at the statistics for home prices here in 2023 with many people predicting, somewhat of a crash and values have to go down because of the rates going up. And we just didn't see that this year. The average for the first 6 months was actually a little lower. Average price was a little lower than the average for the last 5 months. Very similar, but it was lower. And so what that tells me is that the market has adjusted and normalized, like you mentioned. Even with higher rates, right? The peak of the rates was just 2 months ago. And even with that, prices still remained elevated. And so if you are somebody that is anticipating a market crash and a real housing setback in values, Like there just doesn't seem to be the data
Doesn't
and
support it.
evidence for that.
Yeah.
And now that rates are going down, we're anticipating increased demand. We've already seen it, as you and I both mentioned, in the last, just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, when really activity should be going down at this time of year with
Yeah.
holidays and things. That's traditional in our market. We're seeing an increase in activity, and I think we're going to continue to see that in 2024 with rates going down. The bottom line is that buying a house is just better than renting.
Yeah.
It's better than renting. People want to own a home.
Yeah.
And so so the market appears to be good and strong and stable. And if you're feeling financially ready and able, the advice is just, just do it, right? Don't do
Yeah.
anything you're not comfortable with.
Right.
But if you're ready, it could be the time to pull the trigger and anticipate, many years of wonderful home ownership.
Yeah. And I mean, when we were in that hot market, I mean, it was, yes, you want to be in your home 2 years. So you didn't realize capital gains, right?
Yeah.
If you sold, but now what I'm telling my clients is why don't you look at it for at least 3 years and really for 5 years? Will this home accommodate
Yeah.
what you have going on in your life for 5 years? And that way you build a little bit more equity as you're moving forward, since you're not seeing that rapid spike in equity.
Yeah.
You're getting a slow build on equity,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
But to your point, earn your own equity. Don't earn it for a landlord, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not only does your home go up in value, but every time you make a mortgage payment, there is a little portion of it, right? In
Mhm.
the early stages, it is a smaller portion, but if you make a, say, a $2,500 mortgage payment, there's going to be $300, $400, $500 that goes into a little savings account.
Yeah.
It's not a bank account, but it's your house. And
Mhm.
eventually you're going to cash that back out. When you make a rent payment, none of it goes towards your future. None of it, absolutely
Exactly.
zero.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up a good point about the first 6 months versus the latter 6 months of this year. So kind of going over those same stats. So again, same parameters, right?
Yeah.
Single family home that closed in Bonneville County. For the first 6 months of this year, we had our average sales price at 423.
Okay.
Okay. And then for the latter half, we're at 430.
Yeah.
So that's actually come up,
That's
right?
about what I would have expected just based on my experience in the market, is a slight
Mhm.
increase. Nothing crazy, nothing dramatic, but slight increase. And that's what you want
Yeah.
as a homeowner.
Exactly. And then days on market, the first part of this year, right? 51 days.
Okay.
And then now we're looking at 43.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's interesting. You would think that,
Yeah.
to your point, we were slowing down. We're not. We're picking back up,
That's
right?
surprising, especially because the peak of the rates were in October. So your
Mhm.
stats for the last 5 months include the peak rates, and
Yep.
homes were still selling faster than the first 6 months of the year. So
Yeah.
again, people just, ultimately you want to own a home. You want to have that pride of home ownership and be able
Yeah.
to control your house and not have your rent go up, and have a dog and have a fence and do what you want with your house. It's just, ultimately it's the American dream, right?
Yeah. Or you have two crazy cats and two crazy dogs like I do. And then it's
Yeah.
chaos everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's really where, we keep telling our viewers is you need to find the right people to partner with, right? So consider us your concierge. So don't just take the word of your neighbor's cousin's friend who has an opinion about the real estate market, right? You want to know what's really going on with finance. You want to know what's going on with rates. You want to know what's going on with your fiscal health and what you can do in the real estate market. Call Mike.
Yeah.
You want to know what's going on in the housing market, and, is your house going to sell? How long is it going to take to sell? Can you get into something else? What's going on? Give me a call. We're
Yeah.
here. And even if you're not ready to transact business today,
Mhm.
let's start the conversation now and
Yeah.
look at that in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. But at least we're going to keep you knowledgeable along the way so you can decide when it's best for you and your family to jump in.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no rush, no pressure, but plan it out, be ready for your future. And all of those numbers that you've just mentioned over these last few minutes, those are all
Mhm.
facts. That's
Yeah.
data. That's exactly what's transpired over the last 2 years. And you can provide that to anybody, anytime.
Yep. Yep. And that's one of the things we do, right? We go through and do a comparable market analysis and we'll take a look at it. When you find that dream home, we pull up those same kind of stats and look at things that are
Yeah.
similar and go, is it priced right? Is it this? What are we going to do? And we'll always provide you that information.
Yeah.
So now let's tell everybody where you work, what you do, and how you
Yeah.
and Movement Mortgage can help.
I'm a loan officer for Movement Mortgage, and I am licensed in Idaho, Washington, Oregon, and California. And my company is licensed, of course, everywhere, all 50 states. So if you're in not one of those 4 states, I can certainly connect you with the right people around the country.
Perfect. Perfect. And again, I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Silverhawk Realty, East Idaho, here in the beautiful downtown Idaho Falls. And the same thing as Mike is if you're looking for an agent elsewhere, actually globally, still give me a call. I'm happy to help you vet the right agent and get you connected. So we're happy to do that. Now, we are approaching the holidays, my friend.
Yes.
So we're probably going to take a little break from filming for a week or two. So we will
You don't want to
catch up with
catch me in my
everybody
Christmas
shortly.
jammies next
Well,
week?
I totally do. Can we have hot cocoa and jammies? That'd be fun.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are faithfully watching us, if you see us disappear for a hot second, we will be right back. So thank you as always for joining me, Mike. I appreciate all your experience and information that you bring to the table for myself and for my viewers.
Likewise, thank you for having me and have a Merry Christmas.
You too.